Hollywood is very much a factory town, and the widget that we make is entertainment.
Across the board, everyone is creative, from the directors to the writers to craft service. Everyone has a talent.
Some people come out here sort of on accident and find a place inside of the circus, and I think that some people are kind of called.
Pilot season, upfronts, awards campaigns. Hollywood moves in cycles. But now, the cycles have slowed a lot. It's a reset, and no one knows where the new baseline is.
If you spoke to the average worker in Hollywood, you'd hear existential dread. You've seen a pretty dramatic reduction in output, a lot of layoffs, fewer jobs. So it's just been a dark period.
Los Angeles has visibly turned into what I would call a ghost town.
Employment in California's motion picture industries peaked in 2016, but was decimated by the pandemic. And despite a surge in streaming, the actors and writers' strikes meant a massive loss of jobs that show no sign of coming back. Big tech disruption, mega mergers, and the looming threat of AI has left Hollywood in shambles.
What are you doing? Can't help these people. Are you insane?
I never thought this crap would happen in my lifetime. We're just in this inflection point right now where everything's converging. Not great economics, bad business models, audiences that are fragmented.
Have they forgotten what a star looks like?
I was just at a meeting on one of the lots, and to not be dodging around forklifts, it's astounding the lack of production that's going on right now in Los Angeles.
So here we are, we're inside of an empty soundstage, actually one of the larger ones. As you can see, production has left California.
The numbers tell the story. Have a look at total LA shoot days for 2024. Now look at 2025, it's down over 16%. Compare this to 2016, when shoot days were at their recent peak.
Some of it has gone to other states, but the majority of it has gone outside of the US to places like the UK, London, places like Australia, New Zealand, and other countries with more aggressive tax incentives.
Goldman Sachs foreclosed on Radford Studios, a very famous film studio in Los Angeles, because it just wasn't making the payments on its debt.
This is the story across the industry, and ultimately, the buck stops at the box office.
The movie business is really in a long-term stagnation, at least in terms of cinemas. People aren't going out as much to the movies.
The average American now goes to fewer than 4 movies a year. Just a decade ago, I think that was closer to 5.
Ticket sales were doing pretty good until, once again, COVID. And they never fully recovered, remaining nearly $3.5 billion lower than 2018. Sure, people don't leave the house anymore, but there's binge watching. That's gotta be a bonanza, right?
This was an industry that had a decade-long boom fueled by the arrival of streaming and the growth of new streaming services, Netflix, Hulu, and Amazon, followed by Disney and Paramount Plus and HBO Max.
The idea then was like, let's spend as much money as possible on movies and TV shows so we can get as many customers and win this streaming battle.
That came to a crashing halt in 2022.
Everyone was losing billions of dollars, and then in 2023, you saw the strikes by actors and writers. And that was really a turning point because the studios figured out they could get by with a whole lot less. So they cut staff, they cut their spending on movies and TV shows.
You're in bad shape.
Yes, Hollywood is very fancy celebrities. There's a lot of very wealthy people who are very fabulous, but the people that I know, they are writers, they are producers, they're directors, they're grips and electricians, and they are trying to pay rent, and they're trying to keep food on the table.
Actually brought my own slate, so,
Oh.
there.
Yeah, that's okay.
In the last 25 years, I've Done production sound for everything from broadcast news to feature films. Check.
And the Oscar goes to Whiplash, Thomas Go.
Thanks, Mike and Dave. I won the BAFTA and the Oscar for Best Sound Mixing for Whiplash. Compared to the heyday, things have gotten pretty bad. In 2025, I had 10 union days of work. You could say that I'm a canary in a coal mine because when sound people aren't working, it means that nobody's working.
I'm a writer for television and movies. It's been very, very, very difficult. The industry you worked in changed fundamentally overnight. I've had to take a demotion and go back to working as an assistant, the level that I was at before I became a staff writer.
I went from being at the top of my career, and then all of a sudden the rug was pulled right out from underneath. Not just me, but everyone I know. And it's heartbreaking. I've had to take a lot of step backs. I work part-time at World Market. You know, I got a seasonal job there during Christmas, and thank God they decided to keep me.
A lot of people are digging into their retirement savings. You have to live.
Amidst this ominous lack of work, major studios have been trending towards mega mergers for their survival, which, needless to say, isn't helping.
There's been one big deal after another. The companies that have done the big deals have generally suffered from a profitability perspective, but also just from a stock price perspective. And people are really worried about too much consolidation.
Well, in my point of view, I lose a buyer. You look at Netflix, you look at Warner Brothers, you look at Paramount, you look at Fox, they're all buyers. While Warner Brothers can still run as Warner Brothers always ran, I'm losing places that I can take content to. And then, of course, you have job loss as well. Then you have studios restructuring. It's a never-changing cycle.
What's eating you?
There's little doubt that the culprit behind all this change is tech.
You have a camera in your pocket with a phone. All this editing software is cheaper than it used to be. And AI should only accelerate this because it's just going to be much easier for people to make stuff. There's more content being produced and released than ever before. We're all exhausted by it. And that puts a tremendous amount of power in the handful of platforms that have audiences.
This is a profound period of change in an industry. It's not unlike maybe what newspapers have been through, radio.
Tech comes in and they break these existing models that have worked for decades. Happened with Airbnb, it's happened with Uber. Money is flowing upward to a very concentrated point at the top. Everybody in the ecosystem, from the end user to the provider, ends up suffering. And that's what happened in Hollywood.
You're under the age of 18 years old. The majority of what you watch is on TikTok and YouTube. YouTube owns over 13% of connected TV audience, which has grown year over year significantly.
Let's have a closer look at the data. Here's Nielsen's numbers for how much TV time YouTube has been grabbing from the streamers between 2022 and 2025.
Movies are no longer the center of Western culture the way that they once were. I think that that's pretty evident and apparent in a lot of consumer behavior.
The days of the A-list star system that carried the box office isn't tracking anymore.
There's no longer like the gatekeepers of Hollywood. That's the beauty of the technology that we're in right now, is like it kind of opened the aperture to allow anyone to create. Because some of those storytellers are so good, they're getting a lot of attention on YouTube.
The good thing is you can publish anything you want. The bad thing is you're not being compensated for it. It is a massive grind in order to monetize that. For every Mr. Beast that's out there really crushing it, there's a million other creators that are never being seen.
It's very lean in terms of how all these creators are actually getting stuff done.
He said, "Hey, stop playing hero. Nurse, she's not even on staff here."
One camera operator, one editor, maybe a production manager. There's no like sound person, there's no crew. And I think it's been a hard transition.
And even these scaled-down productions could go the way of the dodo. AI's ever-evolving image creation is poised to remove the need for sets, cameras, crews, even writers and actors.
Very
is no way but force.
I know a few managers that are driving Uber.
I've been struggling with a plan, to be honest.
Do I feel like this is the end of my career as an editor? I don't know.
There is some light at the end of the tunnel, and that is content remains king. Even though big franchises still dominate worldwide revenue, smaller budget films are hitting a sweet spot and finding big audiences.
The heart of the business will always be storytelling. So it's a struggle for the people who depend on these big budget movies, but really an opportunity for people who are creative and get creative about the tools they use.
I believe that independent film is the beating heart of Hollywood. People are creating and they're making things and there's movement. I am getting more business inquiries than I can keep up with right now. And to me, that indicates that people have a fire inside of them. They're not willing to let the business die.
The shift isn't theoretical. Companies like A24, valued at $3.5 billion, have demonstrated that disciplined budgets and bold storytelling can outperform the old studio playbook, turning indie films into box office wins and cultural touchstones. But studios are still doubling down on brand safety. In 2024, the top 10 highest grossing films were all franchises. 2025 saw even more expansion into pre-existing IP. If indies are going to make a dent, it's going to be because audiences demand it.
We need to make less Marvel movies. We need to make more great movies, great stories.
It's going to be smaller. I think it's going to remain a scrappy industry where people who are really passionate about it are going to continue to create opportunities for themselves.
People are still reading, people are still optioning, people are still taking in content.
As long as we keep doing our job and are given the opportunities to create at a high level, I do think that it will still hold an important place in culture in the long run.